Yep.
September monthly. So I pulled a few cards that is going to be pretty much for all of us. Maybe our messages, maybe our general reading for basically this transition. And it's kind of like really telling to me. It starts with Milky Way. It was the first card that came through it, and it kind of like really got me giggling because I am rewatching those series through the wormhole with Morgan Freeman. So if you haven't seen it, it's kind of like really interesting to really see how basically that physics interact with most likely even our spirituality, and how we are comprehending those, I mean, additional or alternate realities, right? Because as you know, Earth is the part of the Milky Way, but Milky Way has probably billions, you know, it is probably one of billions of galaxies that we actually know in the universes that we are absorbing, right? It has, I don't know, billions, probably 400 billion stars, and it is the one that is the closest to the sun. And it's kind of like interesting because they have managed to, everything that you see in the sky is basically past. You're not seeing the present because it takes time for the light to come and reflect. So everything that we see is not really what is going on in that moment. So it's kind of like a concept in itself that kind of like we need to kind of like wrap our head around. So this, it's kind of like really interesting for this month because we are going through basically Virgo transition and actually also Libra, so I can see actually both kind of like sending their own messages, right? So this is really telling us to regain our perspective. Maybe we strayed away, maybe we kind of like lost gravity, maybe certain people don't gravitate toward us or we don't gravitate toward them, right? It simply kind of like it is time to possibly step back and then allow ourselves to detach in order to kind of like gather information, right? And it's kind of like going into that internal aspect of ourselves that kind of like observes life instead of life basically happen to us, right? It also is basically telling us to look at things from different point of view, from kind of like understanding that, hey, we are part of this big universe, right? We kind of need to kind of like understand not only where our position is, but also how everything can affect us and how maybe even the small emotion can affect the entire basically universe. So it's kind of like really interesting because the next time is dream time, and this is kind of like this beautiful story. And I know that the Australians are going to correct me because this is talking about the Aboriginals of Australia, right? And this is basically their place that exists before time. So it's just like when I saw these cards coming out, I was really giggling because this also talks about how basically Earth was formed, right? And they're talking about that they had this ancestral ancient ancestral, what is the word, spirits that kind of like remained in the kind of like very forms that was created, so including all these animals and hills and stars and all this kind of like other features that we kind of like see around us. It's basically kind of like basically continue to present today their gods, right? So this is really talking about our either individual but also I believe group spiritual template that kind of, in particularly in this card, talks about things that have been passing down from one generation to another. So we are talking about at least 60,000 years, although those aboriginals would say they existed since the beginning of time. So in one those traditions, right, there is this creation story that is involving this Daijiraidu, which I think it's pronounced, and correct me if I'm wrong, this kind of like hollow, right, log that kind of like emits kind of like woo, that kind of like droning sound when kind of like is being played. It's kind of like really nice. It's kind of like really gets you into this vibration, and you kind of like really start feeling that connection when you hear it. So, you know, kind of like it is again time to kind of like sink deeply and understand that sort of like you are that crossover between spirit and physical reality. So it's like a breathing, comes in and comes out. What are you letting in and what are you letting out? Maybe it's going to be kind of like some kind of realization, because this is very much like Hermit card. It talks about solitude. No, it doesn't talk about loneliness. It really talks about the quality that we need to have in order to kind of like understand that, you know, sometimes we need to pull things inside of us to understand, express our own creativity. Maybe something got stuck. Maybe there was like sort of like stalemate. Maybe for some reason certain things couldn't happen. Maybe they're not part of the big picture, right? Because it could be that you're talking about a person. This is this card called Loyal Heart. And it's kind of like really amazing to really see, because as you know, Libras are always kind of like thinking in those terms, right? That, you know, there is like this royalty. And what I really like about this card is like that these two owls are actually looking in each other's eyes. So there is like this big heart, and there is like this big understanding between the two of them. This kind of like I really feel was more or less talking about us personally needing to reconnect. Maybe we got disconnected. We need to reconnect and understand how our actions are affecting other people. That also, even on the lonely island, the tree is going to grow and be magnificent, and nothing is going to stop, not even a storm, because the light always can be found, right? Maybe we need to find Loyal Heart. Maybe that is what is happening, because I really think this is really addressing the later part of the month, but that's maybe some kind of like self-understanding that we need to kind of like come to. Maybe this is really talking about our partnerships and friendships and romantic relationships, right? Maybe they have some qualities in common. It is really good to kind of like see this, because part of this reflection is going to be, this is the mirror of me, right? So this is really talking about also us being dedicated and devoted back to our friends, to kind of like express that faithfulness. And I really think it's going to really be all around, kind of like understanding that maybe we pushed too far or we didn't do enough, and kind of like coming into this balance. It is kind of like really, really interesting, because this is telling me that your kind of like long-term loyalty to your goals is going to become kind of like very evident in this world of conditions where, you know, all our aspirations for success kind of like sometimes assume form kind of like in reality, but success is nonetheless looks like taking shape, and it was inside job over here. From what I see, we kind of like really need to kind of like in all this kind of like process stay flexible, because if we are inflexible, what do you expect to come out of that process? We kind of like have to kind of like come to this kind of like bigger perspective that is basically talking about here. So I really would not advise any kind of like stubbornness of any kind. Now, interestingly enough, that we did get here Thunderbolt and the Outsider. None of them is a good card. So it is really telling me this is that basically Tower card. But here, as you can see, lots of people are jumping off instead of from Tower, from here. This is really telling me about ego death. It is really telling me that we need to shed some aspects of ourselves that maybe we were like really holding on for such a long time. Maybe we kind of like felt as an outsider. We could always maybe meet people who would always keep us, you know, some kind of like foot away, or kind of like it was always a distance that we couldn't somehow overcome, even if we tried it. The truth is, like, this came reversed. So this is telling me that maybe something is happening, that we are even clueless about something, because we all build our own egos, we all build our own life. It's basically all this house of cards. It's like all that ego stuff, where especially we are getting really like more and more kind of like divided with choices, and we don't have any more universal news and universal things, and we keep looking for things that will reinforce our basically already viewpoint. And this is really telling me that this is something that you are needing to really deal with. Maybe this month you want to kind of try to just to listen to something different, attend to classes that otherwise you wouldn't attend, kind of like really talk to people who are much different. Because look at this card. Hello, hello, who came to say hi to everybody? Say hi. Say hi here to camera. That's it, pretty girl, walk up. So this is kind of interesting, because some people don't like when my kitty cat Sapphire comes over here. And you know, this divining, it's all about observation, and it's intuition. Intuition usually kicks in and clues in when you are really observant of this perspective. And this perspective is like, this is what happened. Just like as I was saying, some friendships and some kind of like love relationships will become coming to you to acknowledge that. Just like Safi jumped in, said hi, and I love you. And I really think this is like something we can really look forward. I think there are some conditions though, and these conditions would be few things that we really need to figure out. Also, maybe what obstacles we have created, and if this is a really big deal, or how to really kind of like get off that high horse, how important we are, because we live in really strange times, right? And this card, as I was just about to say, look at us through this fence, how beautiful these colors are. And of course, this little child looking inadequate, it's kind of like looking what is out there. I really, really want to be there, and what's going on. Maybe the child is in the garden and looking out, but maybe looking into something else. Now, I think the key in this picture is this basically chain. And look at this chain. It is opened. It doesn't take much to really take away this chain. So now these two cards together, what do you chain yourself to it? What kind of beliefs are you holding that maybe need to be released? You have to figure out if something that you were really holding as really important. This is who I am. Without this, I cannot live. Try to shed all these kind of like core principles to a minimum, and you will see how, you know, you're going to really be able to embrace more people as well as to be embraced. So this is kind of like a general part of the reading, and now we are going to go in the individual signs. Guys, I still have the speed up promotion. Still, if you order your own reading, you will get it much shorter. So instead of 3 weeks, you're getting in a week for the regular one. Instead of 1 week for a rush one, you're going to get it in 3 days. And urgent, it used to be 3 days, now it's like 24 hours. So kind of like make your pick, and you can check it via my website, cattarot.ca. And guys, let's not forget that there is a contest going on where you can win a 15-minute reading with me. Part of it is like leaving comments over here on Facebook or on Instagram, and that's going to be one winner a month that I'm going to pull from basically all of these guys. But there's going to be a much maybe faster way if you come to my live, which is every Saturday at 11 o'clock EST. You need to comment so we know that you're there. Just say hi, and you know, some of the moderators are going to kind of like make the pick. They can call it any time. You have to be present in order to get the award, and you get this like 15 minutes with me, and from that point you will just need to contact me and you're all set. And of course, nothing beats private reading. This is just your energy and me, and we are really looking down and trying to find not only what's up, but also what is the best way out of it. And this is it. Let's start with this month's Taroscopes. Capricorns, look who came here. Look who came here. Do you love Capricorns? No? Not at all. Did you date a Capricorn? Something happened to you? Huh? You're so secretive. You're so secretive. Alright, Capricorn. Sorry about distraction over here, but it's a nice for a distraction. As I said in the introduction, distractions are also very important. So it could be, and it's kind of like funny that I see that from the cards that jumped out. You have Knight of Chalices, Three of Wands, and Knight of Pentacles reversed, along with Soulmate. There is like definitely lots of different information, kind of like you're getting different things and maybe even very kind of like opposing things from different sides. So, you know, definitely this would be like this soulmate and somebody wooing you and telling you good things, the flowers and all kind of like things. But then, you know, this is kind of like usually the one, this is the Capricorn one, as you can see, but it's reversed. So are you not feeling that's a fit, or are you kind of like debating? Because this one is my card of the ships. Where is this ship going? Like there is like somebody who is curious. Finally, I'm putting my plan in action. And where is this heading? Is this a friendship? Because this could be a friend zone as well. Is this a friendship? Is this a relationship? Partnership? And what the heck? I don't want anything. This also could mean that you're like really, really focused just like on kind of like what do you want out of it? Maybe you are really ready for that pretty romance. So shall we start? Let's see, where is this taking us? I will tell you all these cards. Release your ex. Maybe that's what it was. You just like simply don't want certain energy. And release your ex and children. Separation. Honeymoon. Give your relationship a chance. Here. Are you seeing this? Hopefully you do. Romantic feelings again. And there's go the friend zone. Let your friends help you. You do deserve love. Like almost like everybody's getting you deserve love. Of course we deserve love. And love is like mostly inside job. Like we shouldn't be really defining our worth by, you know, if you have somebody in love. Attraction. I am a little bit envious, I have to say, about your spread. So let's kind of leave this card over here as well and see. Well, there is the karma card here, and you have a knave here. All right, Capricorn, let's start somewhere and try to kind of like get to the end. You know, sometimes it is really difficult to make this work because you get so much information. Like my channel is growing and I am picking up on so many of your energies. So coming on Saturday is really helping me because I kind of like funnel that energy, so you're really contributing with your energy. Trust me, this is how it works, because I also heal with Reiki, and literally you can lay hands on someone or even do it long distance for them to actually change the entire outlook on life. So sometimes, and this might be one of those occasions, and that's why I'm making this kind of big intro, the messages can be very confusing, which no two Capricorns are like, as you probably know, and they're like different things that need to be taken care of, and usually probably what comes through is like what comes stronger. So sometimes it doesn't make sense, and I'm trying to make some kind of sense of it. So again, these are like conflicting messages. One is a honeymoon, and honeymoon for me is not the exciting card, because honeymoon is like really that stage when we are blindly in love, which is nice, beautiful stage. We believe everything is possible, sure, you know, we are going to live happily ever after, and then and then, you know, things start to change. So some people manage to ground that relationship. You are an earth sign. Hello, do you love Capricorn now? Huh? Still no. Sometimes you manage to ground this relationship, sometimes you don't. And this is like kind of like one of those situations. It looks like, because the Three of Pentacles is talking about basically teamwork. Look, hey, are we going to catch this little mousey kind of a thingy? And unless there is a teamwork, if you start kind of like debating with each other, nothing will happen. And that's exactly what's happening here. Maybe this whole concept about relationship is kind of like ill positioned for some kind of like reason. So then you have the Chariot, and also you have the Queen of Wands reversed. Chariot is kind of interesting card, very lovely card. It's also very, very fast. Chariot kind of like rules all the knights, and we have two of them over here. So this as well could be like the King of Knights if you really wish. But Chariot really talks about reconciling differences and kind of like deciding on where to go. But it could be that maybe you feel this Queen of Wands could be you, that you have lost enthusiasm for somebody, for something. Maybe you went away, maybe somebody left the relationship, because it looks like that something that started really nicely and romantically is kind of like really maybe not meeting your expectations. Because I also see here separation, and this is definitely Page of Cups. Is talking about some kind of like stay away from me, love rejection kind of a thing. Somebody kind of like does want to move forward, but the other person doesn't want to. And look at that, you have the World reversed and the Empress. Two majors with the separation. So this could be something really serious, such as divorce, because I also see the Hierophant and I see Justice. And I know this is Celtic cross and you're going category to category, but you have to kind of like pull everything together. And I don't really care about the categories. When I see something that talks to me, I really tell you this. This card here is a card here and now. Something here and now is happening, and some of you are sending these vibes about not being happy. Some of you kind of like don't want to go into this next cycle of life. You see this like huge infinity sign over here. When this card reverses, just like this one reversed, it really talks about this karma is still going on. And this whole reading, the whole healing, like you can even come to my couch and I can have like, let's say, official therapy with you. And the whole idea is to get it. The whole idea is to release the past. I don't know if you ever guys watched The Pretty Woman, and yeah, I'm that old, yes. And I really loved Julia Roberts and Richard Gere. And it was in one scene that he said, actually I was a student back then, when he said, hey, you know, it took me so many years and so much money to kind of like get therapy, and then all that happened, yes, I hate my father or whatever it was, right? And he said it hit me, and it was just like that. And it feels like flick of the switch. It's almost like, oh, he became famous overnight. Yeah, maybe something made somebody famous, but they have been building and building and building and building and building, who knows, for so many years, right? So this is kind of like a card like that is like talking about that you're like kind of circulating back. It could be that there are issues with child support. It could be issues with wondering how to move forward, especially if you're a woman. If you're not a woman, you're wondering how to pay the child support. There is like definitely monetary involvement over here. I see a very kind of like big need for security with like this, look at this pentacles. You have everything. You have the king, you have a knight, you have the page, and who knows, probably we're going to get eventually the queen. So it sounds to me, guys, that you really checked out. I just want to see that the soulmate is clarified later. But not everything is bad. It's just like, what is really not good is like this card here connecting with this one. It's like saying about something that feels really harsh, something that really feels kind of like going down in that area where you just don't know how to stop the pain. Like there is like, it's not so much the pain that I see so far here yet. In fact, quite the opposite I see here. But it's more or less like discomfort with the situation. How will I go forward? Kind of like more or less along those lines. Because like here in the core of this reading, again, remember how you had this like card of ships? As I said, kind of like you need to really focus, but this way you really don't know where that focus is. Here is like very similar. Again, look at all these problems. Like everybody's fighting. You've probably seen a whole bunch of kitty cats and you hear that hissing and fighting, and they're kittens. This is how they're establishing their hierarchy. Look, even the little baby kitten, the little kind of like Siamese Seffi, kind of like is trying to come up. But the little rat, the little mouse, is going to get away because they're busy with things where they're not able to focus. Having said that, this card is like, to me, always the card about relationships. It's always like, hey, you know what? Like, I mean, we always need to negotiate. So good relationships, they negotiate less. It doesn't mean that they are suppressing their needs. So they don't need, there's like not that much of a turbulence. Bad relationships, always something, always you don't do that, you don't do that. Like, it's kind of like where it is. It looks to me, given that you're getting Release Your Ex, and this is also Release Your Ex card, and it's kind of like the issue for some of you about children, clearly children. This children card can also talk about our inner child, where we feel hurt. And that's kind of like overall, I feel that some of you feel that you have dedicated so much into something, into marriage. It looks like there is like this marriage, you deserve love. And like you feel short-handed, right, in the situation. But this is clearly saying that there is like really need to kind of like release that energy. And there is a Tower. This was like a 5 of Wands, by the way, for the Tower, and here getting 8 of Wands. So this is really dark energy. I'm not going to lie to you, but it is not a dark energy in a sense, let me close the door and start screaming out of pain and I just don't know what I can do. This is anger. This is like, why in the world this happened? This is kind of like something has been built over years and over years, and it had this kind of like base that just like was not sustainable. So it is exactly as I'm talking about, this huge turbulence. And Tower happens sometimes as a shock. Maybe some of you are separate this month, and I'm really sorry to say that, but this is not something that you didn't see before. You did, but you didn't expect, because it might happen in a kind of like really shocking way, either to you or to them. And it's going to be like this whole miscommunication. There is like, yes, actually there is pain over here, but pain out of frustration, not pain out of like somebody kind of like putting kind of like knife in your heart, right? Because if you look at that, that's the Tower, but I also have 8 and 5, 13, which is the Death card. Something really needs to come to the end, right? And then 13 and 16, 29, and that's 29, 11. It's that healing energy. You guys really need to heal. And then I have the 11 here. So the story kind of continues over here. As I said, this is a karma card, meaning you have probably written this into your Akashic records, into your karmic records. You have called a situation because there was something you needed to learn. Maybe you need to learn to value yourself, to put yourself on the pedestal. That's why the Empress is here and the Queen of Wands is here, right? You need to learn how to move away from situations that are not good. We are trained too much, and yeah, I know I'm Aquarius. I kind of like don't stay around when something is really bad, and I know, like, I mean, for the good and for the bad, but yeah, how bad and how long is that bad, and is this balance? It's kind of like, that's my Libra in me talking. So no, I really don't believe in such enormous sacrifice. I do believe in negotiating. I do believe turning every stone before leaving, that's for sure. but I'm not going to stay there if basically there is no nourishment, if there is like no respect. And this kind of like really feels hard for you to kind of like release that, because look at this releasing and separation. And it's like children are probably something that you're really wondering, because this judgment card, pardon me, the justice card is like about creating that balance. And again, it's saying that you will not feel that balance this month. This kind of like card talks about just being out of whack, and this is the message. Just take it, because that is what you are being quizzed this month by God, karma, universe, whatever you want to call it, by the spirit. You have, like, you know how we all have knee-jerk reaction, they're talking fight or flight. Well, neither for you this month. You barely should just try to just comprehend what is going on, because you know what, justice might not be served now, but if you take justice in your hands, you are going to get negative brownie points. If you do not take justice in your hands, then justice will be served sooner or later, and you're not going to have your brush with that destiny. So you have the 7 of Cups, and you have like also Ace of Wands. And again, this again would tell me that this again tells me that something is not growing for sure, which is a lovely card upright. It's one of the best Ace of Wands rendition that I have seen. But like, this kind of like talks about opening. On one hand, you know the door open. I always said, whenever I left to work our position, for some reason I said, oh my gosh, you know, this one door is closing, but another one will open. And for me, it was always because of that attitude that the next door was better and better and better and better. So it almost was okay, you know what, I need to go, because this is how I was getting my raises. Instead of like whatever it was, 5% a year, I would get like, 15% by just shifting. So this is kind of like one of those things, right, that you need to kind of like figure out all these possible options. But this also could be a dreamland. Frankly, I do advise this dreamland. Generally, I kind of like ground you and say, wait a minute, honeymoon, it's kind of like rose-colored glasses. But you need that release. You need a relief of something that is going on. Yeah, go ahead. If you feel that somebody is not acting in your best interest, if you feel that injustice have been done, go and escape in this dream world. Just do, because something is not starting, and maybe this is you who is deciding that certain things are not moving forward. But nonetheless, kind of like there are issues over here. I just want to pull one card to see on this. It's a Wands. I did get this like dream directive, and I have like really weird dreams. Like, I mean, I had this dream about deformed white crocodile, and it was like back of the crocodile was like snake, and the front was like mouth chasing me down the parking lot. So go figure. And I probably didn't ever see crocodile in my life. I've seen pictures. I don't even remember seeing them in the zoo. Ace of Wands. Foe. Foe is to me a card of the exes, or dealing with people. It's kind of like, looks to me that maybe you're going to ask for separation. Maybe you're going to ask for something that maybe is rightfully yours, and you're going to be told off and maybe even attacked. That's kind of like how certain stage is being set up over here. So let's see what is crowning you. On one hand, you kind of like still want to probably fight for that relationship. You kind of like really want to go in that very earthy way, slow and steady, kind of wins the race. There's like certainly money that is basically involved here. Maybe you guys are going through separation. Maybe you are, maybe the legal processes are starting and you're feeling lost in the situation. Yes, and you're still hoping for something to come back, but you're not really trusting. So the Six of Cups is always like that melancholy and nostalgia, and trying to tell yourself, I still love this person, even though I just kind of like had this like vicious argument with this person. And just because you don't like the person or don't like how they behave, it doesn't mean that you don't love them, and I get that. The Fool card, just like that World card, and we have that, right? It's the very next one that comes after this one. As you can see, the similarities as well. Dreaming about the same goal, right? It's kind of like that process and stage. So you see how for you, instead of like, hey, let's shift this karmic cycle into the next, it's feeling fear. You guys playing this poker game with sweaty palms. Everybody knows that you are bluffing over something. This is basically a card that says being foolish. So not fool in a sense that you're trusting and adventurous. This is kind of like talking about something being foolish. Maybe you're trying to turn a blind eye to some kind of like bad things and just focus on the good things. But in your case, I really think that actually is going to work, because all of a sudden, after all this turmoil and everything going downhill, and no matter on which door you knock, all of a sudden the sun comes out and things start to kind of like get better. In a big way, it says ask for and accept support from others. You Capricorns also have a really hard time being vulnerable. That's why you Capricorns and we Aquarians, we are both ruled by Saturn, and basically this kind of have that harsh energy, and we don't really want to show the weakness in that respect. You see, the sun is the cheery, optimistic card of, you know, births and celebrations and children and marriages, and kind of like the hope is there, and you really feel there is like this new beginning and a beautiful start everywhere. But again, there is like this debate, because it almost looks like you are actually moving forward and you're remedying all these issues and things are balancing. Maybe you have separated from someone and it kind of like felt, okay, now when I see what I'm missing, now I'm realizing I don't really want that kind of a thing. But you had like this 3 of Wands, and now you have like this 2 of Wands. So you see in this card, 1 of the wand is bolted, 1 is still free, 1 is emotion, 1 is basically words. So maybe like there was like some kind of like discussion that the words exchanged in like this all the argumentative stages that I have seen have been really harsh. And you know, people say, you know, words cannot kill. Yeah, they can really damage very much. Because this card also, these 2 cards are really one of my 2 favorite cards, but this one came reversed, which luckily this one is up, because this one minimizes really everything around it. The Star card really talks about healing. The Star card really talks about understanding that there is always the star to follow, right? Look at this. Isn't this kind of like looking like a good side, kind of like chasing, kind of like this in a good direction? But when this kind of like reverses, you kind of like feeling that something is hopeless. And at the same time, this is really telling me that maybe you are moving forward in this relationship, you are reconciling, but not really paying attention to everything that you need to. And somebody has been really neglected, and I really want to hear from you. Like, you need to tell me what's going on here, because it kind of like feels that you guys don't want to go further, but at the same time you're realizing the impact and possibly impact on children, or, you know, like, I mean, all of these kind of like things are all of a sudden kind of coming to the fore. Because here you have romantic feelings, and this is the King of Pentacles, so that would be the husband, that would be that serious relationship. So if you separate from somebody, looks like you're coming back, looks like you are either coming back completely, kind of like removing that divorce attempt or separation. Unfortunately, you are not really having a big conversation about that, because this person might come through and say, hey, you know what, I'm here. This King of Pentacles is kind of like a good provider. It's a good husband. It's a good wife. somebody pragmatic, somebody who really gets it, right? It's kind of like really, really important to be there. Temperance reversed and Knave of Swords reversed. That's why I keep thinking it's you. Somebody let you down so much. It is really hard for you to move forward because they are coming somehow in a wrong time. The temperance reverse is talking of wrong time, right place, wrong situation. Something is off over here. So yes, somebody is here. Maybe there is a completely new person coming in your life saying, hey, I'm right here. But maybe you are not ready. You are kind of like really edgy. Or, you know, like the fool that said, foolish, you lost trust in people. And right now, like everybody just like looks kind of like an enemy, like that foe. This, however, is saying that your environment is going to say, look, you do deserve this love. But the Hierophant card talks about, look, there is like also structure, and you want the structure, right? And that's kind of like probably is like what it was telling me here. Yes, there is somebody offering something, but like maybe you're not really acting on it. But be very careful, you might lose soulmate. So you do not have to jump in a relationship if you're not ready, because that looks like it's a marriage material that is coming your way. But it also could mean like now having a Five of Cups, and there is like another karma card here. And actually the third one is hiding in there, and Judgment is hiding in there. This is environment. I think, you know, chickens came home to roost over here. This really talks about there is like no need to spill to cry over that spilled milk, because these big changes are happening. Somebody is putting the little thumb on that kind of like wheel of destiny here. It's clearly kind of like moving in that direction. The wheel of fortune is like that karmic wheel, very much like this one, right? Only thing, this one is now up. Things are turning in your favor. Your environment might do stuff, and that's why I let your friends help you. You need to be able to open up this month. By hook or by crook, guys, you need to open up to friends, to therapists, to some kind of like healing. Some of you will go to your religious leaders and ask for advice, confession, whatever kind of like releases stuff away from you is going to be really important, because it looks to me that you might bottle up certain emotions this month, and this is definitely asking you not to, and it's asking you to release this kind of like cycle of destiny. You're actually moving into a new cycle, and it's kind of like really, really important to see, because something good is coming your way, worth waiting for, and those are these angels. As I said, with two karma cards, and I have only two left in this deck, and the third one was hiding in here. It's like really talking about that, yeah, maybe there are some problems that are existing within you, around you. Maybe you have problems, maybe you have created problems. But this is really saying, okay, maybe the distance is needed. Maybe it's going to be a travel or a simple distance. And again, we have the little kitty over here, which could be that inner child as well, that kind of like is affecting. Maybe you're going away from somebody who made your life turbulent. This Two of Pentacles is that turbulence. But Two of Pentacles can also talk about somebody juggling. And I think that's sort of along the lines you kind of like have, because this is hopes and fears category. So your hopes are that you can move on and things can be overcome, right? In spite of having all these difficulties, we can still make it work. But you also have doubts. How doable is that? Because look at this, it's walking this tightrope and not even being able to walk this tightrope. Like they're both twos. That's really talking about some indecision. That is like really talking about kind of like having idea. You kind of like did have an idea how to move forward and why, but you're kind of like retracting for some kind of reason with facing all kinds of stuff. So maybe this partner that you want to go back to, or even a new partner, you don't deem to be the perfect one. You are maybe not even noticing. The King of Pentacles is somebody who's usually business owner. They're not flashy, even though they might have expensive stuff, and so it's going to be like a big gold ring on her, but like not in a bad taste, right? So it might be somebody who is like your senior, but this also could be a father figure. That why the stuff with the children, maybe you are kind of considering going back with this person because of the children. And on some kind of like different level, this can also talk about that you have issues with your ex or somebody with child support, or maybe somebody's even spying over here, trying to figure things out. But nonetheless, it's just like as I said, something may happen this month that can feel kind of harsh. Just bide your time and work on that. But I really do feel also for those of you, some of you, whether or not you're going through separation and this whole turmoil as it looks like, there is like something new looming. And I know it's kind of like we don't go from flower to flower in terms of love. We don't. But love has the beginning and also the end. And when you have this tower that came through for you, the tower can really signify the end. It's kind of like, remember how we had that, basically the thunderbolt, and we had that we have to get this perspective and go through the situation of solitude and kind of like see what new life we can create, because this is all about, instead of being excluded, kind of like going toward some kind of like loyal heart and work on it. But it really has to be worked on. It looks like you like that and you will like the attention, but you do not want to really work on something new. So somebody new is coming in. My gosh, not one but two. King of Wands and the Strength. You guys are not able to commit. There are like too many things on the plate, and there are like two right like partners coming in your life, but something is not done, and this wheel has to start turning around. Do you love Capricorn now? Okay, finally. Are they going to pick one of those kings? Is that was very hesitant? Yes. Are they going to be okay? No? Oh yes, they will be okay. So there you go, Capricorn. You have Safi authorized, kind of little paw authorized, kind of like reading. So 3 times in your reading, that's awesome. So Capricorns, as I said in the beginning, I knew it from the get-go that it's going to be a little bit messy, because I have seen so many messages, both for singles and going in a love relationship, and yet somebody kind of like going through turmoil. So kind of like seemingly 2 different opposite kind of like parts. So actually I'm drawing one more card for you, kind of like to seal this reading. And really, if you really are going through this situation, please contact me for the reading, because it's really going to help you. My readings are not fortune telling. I really help you get the direction and a plan and to move forward, and we kind of like really line this up. So anyways, good news. The card that I pulled for you is Golden Palace, and it's really lovely. It's talking about this financial security, which I think worried some of you this month. So let me read this for you. There is always enough. The Golden Palace card represents good fortune, ambitious fulfilled wealth, and prosperity. It may also indicate emotional fulfillment, as perhaps you're entering time of happiness that's long overdue. The message here is that self-worth isn't measured by what you have, no matter how abundant your life is. Instead, it comes from what you are, how authentically you're living your life, and how much love you're willing to share. Granted, receiving this card does indicate material gain, and that would be your King of Pentacles, and furthering of tangible rewards. But things come and go, and knowing your true value leads to even great riches now. Share the wealth. I don't feel this is so much about money, to be really honest with you. And Safi did a new kind of like layout. I think I really feel, because this again to me is connecting to basically these kind of like 5s, and you had this 5. So the 5 seem to be really kind of like important in your reading, kind of like really kind of pulling inside. You see, that was kind of establishing boundaries, being sad over certain things that are lost, and yet wanting this luxury of marriage, wanting this luxury of relationship. It's maybe just like not really knowing how to turn this like new leaf, if you wish. And I would suggest that you start from yourself. You need to kind of like give yourself this pat on the shoulder and understand that no matter what happens, life goes on. In your case, guys, trust me, it could be way worse. With you, like getting all these people offering themselves, you have friends. This is like really something to celebrate, and that's what Empress is all about. She kind of like celebrates different things and enjoys children, enjoys creativity. And as we had like in this if Sophie lets me, dreams time, creation, like try to kind of like focus on something creative. Even if you're not a creative person, draw something, you know. Even cooking can be creative. Just try to pick up what you have in the fridge and do something with it, right? And no matter what turns out, you would not believe how many meals I just like trashed in the garbage. But some of them are just like my new kind of like staple kind of like recipes. That's going to simply just return you back to that ground, to that earth that you guys really, really need. And I highly suggest to go in that direction. So my dear Capricorn, since you are Safi approved, right Safi? Thank you. Are they really, really approved? Yeah? Since you're Safi approved, I wish you all the best. I would love to hear your comments. So guys, if you're still here, you see this kind of like button, please subscribe and like and share. That really means a lot to me, and I really would appreciate that I hear the comments, because I've seen so many different basically energies over here. So I'm actually glad to hear how many Capricorns are sending me their energies. And lastly guys, Saturday at 11 Eastern Standard Time in the morning, like there's live, and each Saturday until some next time, somebody's going to win 15-minute live reading with 15-minute not live reading with me. So take that. And if you never had tarot reading, such a nice way to actually get one and to really see the power of that. So thanks so much. And this little kind of like fur ball really loves you. All right, Effie, are you going to say hi to Capricorns? Huh? And there you go, Capricorn. Thank you so much, and until the next time, hope to see you live and also on my Facebook and my Instagram. Love you.